Good afternoon to everybody. Dear colleagues and friends, thank you for your presence today. As speaker, appreciated for the expertise and experiences you choose share with the extended audience. We thank, and I believe it can be a thank you shared not only by myself and Patrizia, organizer of the panel, but with the speakers too and the audience too for the great opportunity offered by the active and assistive living Health Forum that refer to the European Union, the region, and the offices of our University of Udine. Let's start from the title of the panel, Intergenerational Solidarity, Humanities and Social Sciences for Active Aging. In a few minutes, I will try to explain to you not so much the importance of the title, but rather the importance of the humanities discussing with a wider audience and then sharing their reflection in an even wider context. Life stage are as social constructions. Childhood and adolescence, as we know them and protect them, in the Western world are social constructions. The growing amount of knowledge needed to access the adult life phase. The separation of the world of work from the domestic world and then from the world of education. The development of schools, new sensitivities emerging in culture, in welfare association, in law and in institutions, have led to these periods of life being configured as needing to be protected because of their important role in the future of society, the fragility and dependencies that characterizes them, and to protect their rights and needs. We learn that this is a historical journey from documents, paintings, and art. In the Middle Ages, for example, children were depicted as small adults in whose likeness they already had the vices, passions, and defects of adults. Already in Renaissance, with all the cultural influence humanities, childhood took on an aesthetic beauty of its own, opening up a new social construction on this phase life. We know this in retrospect. Changes over time have occurred in conjunction with the factors listed above. Today, we are taking up the threads of cultural, science, creative, and artist discourse in order to be able to consciously rewrite this new phase of the life, the elderly, which has already been partly rewritten by progress in style, quality of life, and technological and health advances. Now, it is up to us together to try to inscribe a new beauty in a social key in the face of elderly life and with it and through it to try to write and build a better society for all. With this word, I leave the floor to Antonella Rien, our former director of department, Anglicist and expert in partnership, who certainly, better than me, will be able to moderate these very rich meetings. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Nicola. It's a very great pleasure to welcome you and to be part of this project. In Udine, we have a big, you certainly know, we have a big group of scholars of all different faculties, let's say, or departments, from the humanities to the sciences, medical science, etc., working anthropology, sociology, literatures, working with active aging. So we launched this project, I think, a couple of years ago now. And so this is one of the occasions where we can share what we've been doing. As Nicola was saying, I'm director of the Partnership Studies Group, which is a group founded in 1998, inspired by the work of Rian Eisler, who's a sociologist, Jew who escaped the Holocaust and who now lives in the States, a great author of many books, for example, The Chalice and the Blade, The Real Wealth of Nations, etc. And she is an active sociologist, and she's 92. So she's a good example of how you can, interact with the younger generations and still be very much active. And so it's a great pleasure of mine to introduce Dr. Sari Hanafi. Welcome, Sari. It's a great pleasure to have you from the American University of Beirut, president of the International Sociological Association. And you will tell us today, you will talk about aging and convivialism. So please go ahead with your talk. I don't want to lose time on any other detail.
Thank you so much, Antonella and Nicola, for this invitation. It's really an honor for me. So quickly, because I don't have time, I should say that the aging issue has many social, economic, and political implications for all societies, global South and global North. It requires interdisciplinary reflection at all levels, and I'm so glad that you have all in this panel, Patricia and other talking about from other disciplines. So my talk will focus on how the convivialist movement could deal with the aging issue. And convivialist movement, when I talk about that, emerged in France, but now it become like international with 2 manifestos. Launched by especially Alain Caillé, a French sociologist. But I should also highlight some of the very interesting Italian sociologists like Silvia Cataldi and Gennaro Irio. Both are also raising special interest in sociology of love. All are based on Marcel Mauss's concept of gift, and actually how we can think our relationship beyond the question of pure interest, and how we conceive our relationship as an integral of giving, receiving, and giving back. And I think the aging is a beautiful case where we need to take care. It's about caring and loving. There is 4 principles of this convivialism. They are the common humanity, to remind population that we are one humanity, but also common sociability. And here what we should deal today with it, how within the society we will have a sociability within the different categories and social classes, but also legitimate individualism. It means that individualism is very important, but the excess of it can be very problematic. And the aged group suffer often from the question of the individualism. The 4th principle is managing conflict, if you like. I mean, to recognize conflict, but to take into account, but to manage it instead of taking things as to full plagiarism and antagonism. Concerning the aging, I'm interested really in this few minutes with 2-3 examples how I think our society should deal with these issues. First of all, it's really more and more there is a paradigm of isolating age group, isolate them in a special housing, maison de repos, what we call in French, instead of being integrated within the family. I will give you two examples. It's happened to be both from Japan, that it's really important we learn from it. The first one is now how they conceive the house for aged population with the kindergarten in the same place, where the aged group can help, can intermingle, provide oral history to small kids, so they are useful even when they have in their 80s and 90s. This is the first example. The second example, when it was a big conference in Yokohama in Japan, in the hotel, I noticed that all those who clean, they are aged Japanese people. So I asked them, and they said all that they prefer. I asked 2-3 of them. They prefer to have a few hours of work, just that they intermingle with people. And they say, look, this example we are talking now. So I think society need to be creative how to integrate this to be in the society. I think the problem is not sometimes the poverty that they are impoverished with the age, but the problem is to be in the society or outside of the society. Another example I will bring, but this time to think how to integrate the role of the age group, the aging group, when we think about the whole society. I think I will go from the book published by Louis Marchal, a French sociologist, around 10 years ago. It's a fantastic small book showing that many of the requests of the unions, working class unions today, are at the expense of the new generation. So this time, if you like, that the more aged group, they don't think about the smaller group, not smaller, sorry, the younger group, and what about the second generation? I think we need really to rethink our society, not in terms of what is now our interest as a working class, as a group, etc., but for the further generations. And so I think I still have a few minutes. So I think we need, if we take as a key word the integration, it means a lot of work should be done from the aged group toward the others, and the others, the younger toward the age group. So this integration should be an agenda, a new agenda for post-COVID-19 time. COVID-19 time show us many things. First, let me think about positive things, to say how nursing community, how they sacrifice their life, especially in the first few months, in order to take care of the other. And I think the reflection that the society, that they said that we should be careful not to sacrifice in prioritizing medical caring for a specific group, that we should not sacrifice the aging group. So I think COVID-19 opened this agenda of integration and rethinking, and specifically rethinking our society with the nature, so again, connecting society to nature is really help us to look to this earth in not only in longue durée in the past, but longue durée for the future. Let me finish by citing Bruno Latour, who for a long time, sociologist and of science, he said that when he think about climate change, he thought for a long time that people ignore that there is a real impact of their excessive consumerism, for instance. But more and more, he believed that it's not a question they ignore. They don't think they believe to this. They belong to the land where they are. I think so. He called for a kind of responsibility, solidarity with the nature. But I would make the analogy and say we need to think that our society really as a whole, where all are useful. Those who serve us, who care for us when we were kids, that we need to care for them when we don't, when they are need our help. So this integration things is very important for our dignity, for our humanity, for our with cohesion, social cohesion, something extremely dear to our founder Emile Durkheim. I stop here.
Thank you, Professor Hanafi, Sari. It's very interesting to say that Isla, that I was mentioning before, talks a lot about the gift and caring, and she actually wrote a book called The Real Wealth of Nations, where she speaks of the economy of caring. So I think you might find that book very interesting. So thank you. Now it's the turn of our colleague and friend, Linda Borean, who has just entered her mandate as director of the department. So this is, I think, my first occasion to congratulate you and to wish you all the best. Professor Borean will talk about style and aging artists, which correlation between art and aging. Professor Borean teaches history in early modern age at the University of Udine at the Department of Humanities and Cultural Heritage. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Antonella, for this introduction, and thank you, Patrizia and Nicola, for having invited me to this to give this a short talk. So I'm an art historian, and one of my interests is to analyze the correlation between age and style. In the last 20 years, art historians tended to define if there is a correlation between age and style in different ways and in a provocative approaches. A symposium made in Getty Center in LA in 1985 addressed the subject, testing the existence, the validity, and the utility of this new category of interpretation of art history and cultural and social phenomena. It's a very complicated topic, but at the same time very fascinating. I just remember that several exhibitions focused on the late career of artists, like, for example, Titian, Rembrandt, Raphael, putting on display paintings and drawings executed in the so-called late career. But what is late career, and when does start late career? And the focus of this exhibition was that of showing to a larger audience than scholars. So this kind of exhibition had the goal to address the topic to an audience which is not of art historian, of course. And the result has been a little bit complicated. One of the problems is that, for example, for us are unavailable the medical records of Titian, of Rembrandt. We have medical records about the cataracts of Monet, but for the artists of early modern age, we have not documentary evidence. And we know very well that aging is not only a biological matter, but is also a phenomenon of cultural identity. In 2007, a Canadian scholar, a colleague of mine, Philip Zohm, published a book titled The Artist Grows Old, The Aging of Art and Artists in Italy in Early Modern Age. And he introduced a new perspective in addressing the topic. And I quote, "This book is a history of prejudice about old age." And he attempted to investigate how old painters, mainly, suffered at the hands of Renaissance and Baroque art critics, collectors, and biographers. What mental landscape preconditioned the responses to art produced by the elderly, and how biology and psychology were co-opted to explain the imprint that artists left on their art. We know very well that everyone old age is different, cannot be equal for everybody. And one of the questions Zohm posed is the following one. How can an experience as elusive as aging be reconstructed for early modern artists? And Zohm proposed a very tempting history of prejudice, and his theory is that if we can reconstruct that history, we can understand how a painter, for example, like Titian, pose himself towards aging. He remarked that at the end of Cinquecento, old artists became a subject of analysis, instruction, and moralizing, and old age became the fundamental factor of the decline of the art. But the history tells us something different, and new research, new investigation about painters like Rembrandt, Raphael, and Titian tell us a different story. The theoretical invention of universal late style came later in 1699 with the French art critic Roger de Pile, who mapped 3 stages in the career of an artist: youth, maturity, and old age. And most of the ingredients of our current understanding of late style are present in the Pile. At the beginning of the 20th century, German art critics defined several attributes to late style: subjectivity, sublime senescence, and loss of control of the brushwork. So, if my artist is a great master, and we can think to Titian, for example, or Poussin, or Rubens, he will manifest in a mandatory way this sign of old age. But Titian, on which I'm focused in the recent years, some of my research, demonstrate how complicated is the analysis of the subject. Today, our knowledge about the life of Titian and the life of his work, I mean state of conservation, deterioration of the canvas he executed, oblige us to reconsider his late style from a perspective that takes into account multiple factors. Titian was an entrepreneur, and he was self-conscious of his age, never minimizing it, but maximizing it. Nobody at this time knows exactly his true age. What was Titian's actual age at that? Nobody knows. And the appeal of gossip, of course, played a role. What happens to a gifted master when hands and eyes are affected by physical degradation? But what is most important, it seems that Titian used his old age as an instrument of manipulation and a means to enhance his income. Writing to his major patron, the King Philip II of Spain, Titian declared, and I quote, and translating in English, "To prolong the time of death, just to be able to serve my great Signore." Of course, there is a topic, and is a sort of luogo comune. But Titian was obsessed with money, not with age. That is for us of particular importance. And he managed, I'm so sorry, and he managed his public image. I'm going to the conclusion. But what implication does this have for his art? And in a sort of a provocative way, Philip Zohm concludes, instead of a victim of old age, can Titian be seen as its master? And I'm conclude here with this question. And I think that this kind of example and this new approach to the late career of an artist in the early modern age can give us suggestion and material for comments and for a new way of rethinking the old age of artists in current life, in our society too. So, and I stop here. Thank you very much, and I apologize for my rusty English, but using this new computer with this new camera, it has been a little bit disorientated. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Don't worry, English is always rusty, and we all have to rework on it more and more. Thank you for your talk. I think it's interesting how artists, though, at least in my small experience, tend to stay much younger if they keep on being creative. And even to look younger, not simply because of their art, but also physically. So I think there might be a connection there. So now my two friends and colleagues, Claudio Melchior and Antonella Puccecco. We have three of our sociologists today with Nicola. And so, you know, sociology is a very important subject and topic of discussion for this and also for a more general approach to culture. And here we talk about, Claudia and Antonella will talk about digital narrative, a social bridging, a reciprocal exchange. So I don't know how you articulate your talk. Antonella starts.
Yes,
okay, wonderful.
Because I will make a sort of negative introduction, and then Claudio will correct this vision.
Sure.
I hope.
In a positive way.
In a positive way, yes, because according to my scientific interest, I want to stress a point which is for me very, very important. I want to spend some words about a sort of fight against stereotypical media representation and social imaginary about old age, because many studies have demonstrated how within Western culture old age is often or ever represented as a sort of another country, a foreign country that remains over members of the society. This hoverness surrounding old age, surrounding aged people, is not only referred to corporeal differences, but also to the chronological hoverness of old age, a sort of distance in time from the concerns of those who embody the present, who embody the moment. And media have a great responsibility in this sense. because they reproduce stereotypical images, stereotypical view of this phase of life. They contribute to a sort of crystallization of social and cultural construct. I want to stress the point that media contents influence our view of the world, our view of society, and at the same time they inspire our behavior, our attitudes, to the other people in our society. An author stressed this point in a very significant way, because this author, this sociologist said, we are aged by culture. This is the problem, because in a lot of cases, we have a representation either too positive or too negative of old people, not a realistic representation. And this is really a problem with a lot of social consequences, and we, in an extent, we have to fight against this prejudice, this stereotypical view, because it's very important in this moment, because many studies have demonstrated how even the so-called ageism has always been present. This ageism became more and more evident during the COVID pandemic period as a form of discrimination against aged people, in the sense that these people are always represented as a fragile group made of powerless people, unable to contribute to society. And this is very, very negative. On the other hand, a lot of studies demonstrate the capability of old people to use, for example, social media in a very positive way, and the positive impact of social media on aged people, in the sense that the use of social media help to improve mental health, to maintain relation with friends and family, to create even a sense of belonging to a greater community, the online community, and to help to pass the effects of isolation. And I think I use my 5 minutes. So,
Okay.
Claudio, you can, continue. Thank you, Antonella.
I'm sorry, my name is Claudio Mecchio. I work in the University of Udine, and our point is about the connection between digital world, okay, and generations, so links and problems in the different of generation of people. She told us something about the negative part of the coin, the negative side of the coin. So the problem that you have in communication in general, in particular in the communication of now, so social media and so on, you have a lot of stereotypes, and you have a lot of ways in which you look at people, and these kind of stereotypes are very difficult to struggle with and to overcome. Digital world can be, on the other hand, also a positive bridge between generations. There are a lot of researches about the concept of digital families. I have one of these researches here. These researches show us how digital media can be a bridge looking and making connections in this kind of digital families. And so we can find a positive role of ICT in facilitate family solidarity, for example, or communication, or it helps to provide new ways of being together for people. We have found that this research is made by Sakari Teipeil, is a Finnish researcher, but the data he collected are taken from the Finnish background, but also from Slovenia in Italian, and from Italy. And I know this research because a colleague of us, a researcher, that is Manuela Farinosi, participated to the collection of this data. And there are many ways in which digital media can have a positive role. The first one is to bring together families that are more different, more people who lives in different households, in different countries, in different places, okay, but put together with technology, using this kind of technology, using this kind of digital help, can have the possibility to communicate. And researchers told us that this communication is not so brief or so little, but that this kind of media can be used to have a sort of full communication, emphatic communication, and emotional communication that brings together generations. Then in this kind of researches, we find different roles in digital ability and skills. Normally we think that younger people, millennials in first place, are the more skilled utilizers. Okay, people utilize this kind of technologies, and we know, on the other hand, grandparents that are normally considered to be far from this world. But in these researches, we find that there are a lot of communication and there are a lot of links between these two generations about the usage of digital technology. So, I mean, younger people usually help all the other part of the family to use this kind of technology. They teach the elders things about the use of these new technologies. And probably I can say, because I'm a sociologist, elder people teach a lot of things in another way when this kind of communication happens. There are a lot of things that I can say about this concept, about this situation, but I want to conclude in a very easy way. Every social fact is complex. And we find a negative part. Antonella has told us something about it. You can find a positive side of the coin. I mean, technology can be used to bring together people, and so also to bring together generations. The future will depend from us. This is the fact at the end. We can think in a pessimistic way about the impact of digital media and digital technologies on society. We can think about the positive side of the coin of this link. And what will be the future depends on the ways in which we think, the ways in which we act, and also about it depends from the ways in which we use this kind of technology. I would like to conclude in this way. We have a little time. I would like to ask all the other people, and I hope there will be the possibility to have some questions and some debate at the end.
Thank you, Claudio. Thank you, Antonella. I had introduced you together because you are the sociologist group of our department. Very active as always and very productive. So now Patrizia Quattrocchi, a cultural anthropology, she will sort of round up, if I'm not wrong, and find out the key messages or, you know, tell us about her thoughts.
Well, thank you, I try. In a couple of minutes, I would like to stress some points emerging from the discussion that I consider particularly relevant in order to better understand the holistic approach we need from the perspective of social sciences and humanities to manage aging as a theoretical concept, but also as a social and individual experience. The first point I'd like to address refers to the importance of considering elderly people or seniors as active subjects in the design of educational or recreational events and services, not only as final benefits or testers of a service, for example, a technology device, but as full participant in the whole process of design and implementation of the action, from the beginning, for example, co-discussing the idea, to the final phase, feedback and evaluation. Qualitative approach and participatory methods are essential to reach these objectives. Second, we need to contextualize aging. Aging is a universal process, but how we age, what aging means at the social and individual level is a local process that cultures and societies experience differently according to their history, specific values, social meanings, behaviors, and agency in the direct life and life course. As an anthropology, I'd like to stress we have to increase our awareness about the cultural construction of our categories and avoid an essentialist and univocal approach to the aging process. In other words, aging is a multifaceted process, bio, psycho, cultural, and social one, that people both live and interpret. We need to take more into account the social actor perspective in defining what aging or active, healthy aging mean in a specific context. Cross-cultural perspective is needed, I think. The last point refers to the relationship between aging and ageism. According to the World Health Organization Global Strategy and Action Plan on Aging and Health to 2016-2030, ageism refers to the stereotypes, how we think, prejudice, how we feel, and discrimination, how we act, directed towards others or oneself based on age. Ageism pervades private and public life, workplace, institutions, including health institutions, media, and produce asymmetric power structure that is based on age-associated assumption. According to the World Health Organization, ageism interact and intersect with other isms such as sexism, ableism, and racism, interesting issues for humanities and social sciences. For example, the relationship between gender and ageism call for research in social sciences and humanities and in anthropology. The World Health Organization Global Report on Ageism, just published 2021, states women are often in a situation of double jeopardy in which patriarchal norms and a preoccupation with youth result in a faster deterioration of older women's status compared with that of men. Men with gray hair and wrinkles are seen as distinguished, wise, and experienced, whereas gray hair and wrinkles are considered to make women look unattractive in many cultures. Ageism also influence young perceptions of elders. A study conducted in 25 European Union countries found, for example, that intergenerational friendships is rare and stereotypes are present. So, to summarize, the importance of bringing different generations together through innovative educational and recreational events based on participatory methods, for example, role-playing, simulation, etc., and different languages, art, literature, as shown in our workshop, can contribute to reduce ageism and redefine aging process according to elders' perspective and not just to international or national institution point of view. So, thank you.
Thank you, Patrizia. Yes, I perfectly agree. You know, all these agendas are sort of quite overwhelming sometimes. You know, with aging and intergenerational relationships, I think we should simply go back to what used to be the smaller community, which is still, you know, in the native traditions, very, very important, the role of the elder, both man or woman. So that tribal approach to life is much healthier, always, because it is the isolation of the individual that, you know, for all of us in this terrible 2 years of isolation in front of a screen, that has been a big problem. Okay, thank you all. I open the floor for questions. Nicola, what do we do?
Yes.
We have 5 minutes.
Yes, but at first, greeting one of our collaborators. I see in the audience Emmanuelle Badon. She's working with our university, two department. But my greatest wish is always to listen to the audience. So I invited someone from the public, from the audience, to see not necessarily a question I asked, but you can give your perspective or your point of view or show some good suggestion for our future work in the topic we told you now.
So you can turn your camera on. Thank you, Emmanuelle. Hello.
Hello, thank you, Nicola, for welcoming me. It was very interesting listening to all of you and to many other sessions during this week. Right now, like this, I would not have nothing to say, but I did take many notes for future work. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Emmanuelle. And certainly we can, you know, move a step further from this meeting to other meditations on the topic. Anyone else who would like to say something, or maybe we can round up and thank our, you know, most welcome speakers, and Professor Hanafi had to leave, I think. So I thank also the public hiding there under their initials for their participation. And we hope and we wait for your comments or questions. I think possibly Nicola or Patrizia will collect. It depends, or if you want to address specifically to one of the speakers, you can do so. So
together, maybe for Patrizia, and then only one word for conclusion, but I prefer Patrizia because I begin, and so first Patrizia now, please.
So, just thank you all the speakers. I think presentation were very interesting, and this is a point. No? This is a first step, and we hope to follow in our discussion, sharing our work as a active aging group at the University of Udine, and I and Nicola and I will be at disposal for further events, and thank you very much.